member coming, but we have a quorum, so we're going to get started so we can get everybody on to their next billable moment. So, all right. I'm Dodd Galbraith. I'm the chair of the Metro Stormwater Committee. Welcome to the September 1st, 2022 meeting. Our first item of business today, now that we're called to order, is our review and a potential approval of the meeting minutes and decision letters. Do any of our members have any edits, corrections that they'd like to make, or do you need time to review the minutes and decision letters in more detail?
I need to abstain because I was not here.
Okay. Do we need to wait for our next committee member so we have a quorum to pass the minutes and decision letters?
No, sir. Abstaining committee member still counts for purposes of a quorum.
Okay, I couldn't remember. I'm getting old. All right.
Okay, Chairman, I make a motion to approve the August 4th Stormwater Management Committee meeting minutes and the associated approval letters.
All right, we have a motion from Vice Chair Stokes to approve the meeting minutes and decision letters as presented. Is there a second? All right, we have a second on the motion from Mr. Lewis. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All those that abstain? All right. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and start with our cases. So I want to ask the first case parties to come up to the table. This would be the 5106 Buena Vista Pike variance proposal. So this is kind of the process. We're going to introduce the case, read you your rights of appeal. Then we'll turn it over to you to make a 10-minute presentation. I'll start a clock. When it gets close to the 10-minute mark, I'll give you like a 2 and maybe a 1, just to kind of let you know you're getting close. And at the end of your presentation, we'll open up a public hearing. People will be invited to come up and speak, introduce themselves, state where they live, their address in Nashville. They'll have 2 minutes to respond. You'll also have an opportunity to respond to their comments at the end of the public hearing. And we may also read letters and emails or council representative comments that have been sent to us. And then after that, we'll close the public hearing, and then we'll start the discussion amongst ourselves. We'll very likely ask you questions about your proposal, and then we'll hopefully make a decision. So, all right. Okay. Mr. Bowman.
Opening statement to the applicant. If you are not satisfied with a decision made by the Stormwater Management Committee, you may appeal the decision by filing for a writ of certiorari with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the committee's decision. You are advised to seek the independent advice of legal counsel to ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been satisfied. Case number 1 on the agenda is 2022-00011, 5102 and 5106 Buena Vista Pike at 5102 Buena Vista Pike. APN is 059-01-003100 and 059-01-003000. Inspector is Kimberly Hayes, Council District 3, Jennifer Gamble. Applicant's request to allow decks, HVAC units, and retaining walls to remain in the Zone 2 floodway buffer. Appellant is AR Realty, LLC, represented by Josh Lyon, Clover Engineering. Comments. Stormwater staff had no comment provided. Codes, no comment provided. Planning, deferred to Stormwater Management Committee. Greenways. The approved site plan includes a conservation greenway easement. All structures and facilities shall remain outside of this easement.
Technical difficulty. Okay. All right, so now we're going to hear from the applicant, and if you would start by introducing yourself as kind of the moderator, the speaker, and then introduce your other guests, and just say a little bit about what kind of expertise they have so we know what kind of questions to ask, what kind of resources we have available to us for our discussion, and then I'll start the clock after that.
Well, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Adam Rittmaster. I'm the owner of AR Realty, LLC. I've been a real estate developer. There we go. Okay. Turn yours on too. Hot mic. Sorry.
And we're live on YouTube too, is probably.
Yes. Good old Music City here.
That's right.
My name is Adam Rittmaster. I am the owner of AR Realty, LLC. I've been a real estate developer in town for over a decade. Been in the city for 22 years, doing multifamily as well. I introduced Josh with Klober Engineering and Daryl Adler with Ackland Property Group, general contractor. Trying to think what's next, sorry. Oh, just going into the project. Yeah, essentially, these lots that I own they were critical lots, had a lot involved with Klober Engineering on the beforehand. In building so, we had to build a retaining wall to allow the proper parking pad that was approved through the initial site plan. And then we did not place decks on the original site plan, but we did build the decks off the back without assuming there was going to be any issues. We did, from the time in which this was initially reviewed, we've got stairway access going off the decks to the side lots. They're not shown in the photos there, but you can see the left house in the photo has an opening where they will run a stairway right along the back wall of the home down to the small grass pad for proper ingress and egress with fire. That home has a front door access and then a garage door access with the garage door, along with the back slider that would be utilized for the decks. Then the home to the right has a stronger fall to the creek side, but we are building stairwell off from the deck running on the north end to the side lot as well for, again, proper ingress and egress for fire. My fear would be on these, if you were not allow us to build the decks, is that the homeowner essentially would at some point in time do it on their own without proper, contracting. The house to the north side of it has a tree fort well lower into the creek area that I think would just add to the homeowners wanting to build some form of platform or deck. And of course, with Ackland Property Group and having the decks done properly, built according to codes, I think would just be would make most sense. And then, of course, we do have, I believe it's the one HVAC unit that they had to place along the back foundation section of the left home. And essentially we're looking to see if we could have these few items approved and then allow these homes to get finished up and on the market. Thank you.
Josh Lyon with Klober Engineering. Not much to add to what Adam has said. We do propose a mitigation plan as well to go along with adding some additional features, landscaping for this intrusion into the buffer. And this is kind of our first submittal on this, so I believe they'd be open to any modifications or additions to help this go through. The decks are elevated well above the ground, probably anywhere from 6 to 10 feet. So they're the only thing in the actual flood or the buffer zone would be the posts themselves, and as well as, of course, the wall and the HVAC pads. So I have nothing more else to add.
All right, is that it?
So, Daryl, anything?
I believe that's it.
Yeah, that'd be it.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll open it up for the public hearing. Thank you for that concise and focused presentation. All right, so is there anyone here from the public who'd like to come up and speak at the microphone? I will ask you to introduce yourself, give us your address in Davidson County, or if you live outside, please let us know that as well, just for the record. Anybody want to come up and comment? All right, seeing none. Mr. Bowman, do we have any voicemails, emails, letters that need to be addressed at this time?
There was a letter of opposition, which is in your packet. I think I also sent it by email from the Nashville Tree Conservation Corps. Just read that, look it over. Some of the things that are brought up in that email might have already been addressed. Like they talk about concrete in the zone 2 buffer. There was originally concrete underneath the decks, and that's been removed now. So,
all right. Any other comments, emails, or other? Nothing else?
Just the Greenway comment as well.
Okay.
That was in the staff comments, but.
Would you remind us what the Greenway, because I didn't get to see that one.
Yeah, Greenway said the approved site plan includes a conservation Greenway easement. All structures and facilities shall remain outside of this easement area. Okay. So I think the Greenway easement is essentially the zone 2 buffer as well. Okay. So these are in the Greenway easement.
Okay. All right. So at this time, we'll close the public hearing now that we've given everybody a chance to comment. And so this is a portion of discussion where we kind of debate and discuss amongst ourselves. So I'll start with one question, maybe for your contractor. It's pretty clear that the building footprints stayed out of the zone 2. So it looks like maybe there was an understanding that there was a buffer there. Can you explain why maybe y'all didn't come to us before you started building to ask for a variance?
That was an oversight. We just were moving along, and we thought the houses were a few more feet beyond the buffer. And at one time, before construction, we were requested to move the houses, and there was just some confusion there. Hindsight, I guess we should have come beforehand, and it's just now we know.
And so the retaining wall, was that always in the plan for that particular site as well?
The house on the right has a 2-car garage, and the only way to build a access into that garage is with that retaining wall to hold the parking area back. If not, it would have been 4 to 5 feet below, maybe even more, 6, trying to drive up to that.
So because it intrudes a pretty good distance into the zone 2, is it fair to say that?
I think the house to the left, it is on the line.
The house on the left, it's outside the buffer.
Outside the buffer.
Yeah, and then when it makes a 45-degree turn, that's when it crosses it.
Crosses,
okay.
Yeah, so that's pretty clearly past, the retaining wall is pretty clearly past the zone 2 buffer.
Right.
Okay. All right. Any committee members want to comment or weigh in?
I'm just kind of at a loss on, sounds like there are a lot of surprises in the field. Howard, I mean, was the survey wrong? Was the design off? Did the architect show a patio back there that wasn't coordinated? Because all these things would need a permit. If you're just adding a patio, you have to get a permit. And so I'm kind of confused. I mean, there's a door on the back of the building. You knew there was going to be something. Did the flood maps change? I know new maps have come out. I mean, this is...
I do know from when we started the project, this project has been going on quite some time because of some of these delays. I think it was the decks was just a miss site on the initial site plan. There was, I guess, in my mind, a plan to have decks. I did believe at the time that zone 2 buffer was a little bit, I thought initially we had enough room to be able to do so, but this goes back a year and a half when we first started the project. And we had an issue that with the sewer lines up front where we thought we were going to be able to have the properties a little closer to the yard. essentially pulled back. But then with a number of back and forth with Logan, site visits and all, the Metro Water sewer line, we were right at the sewer easement with the front of the homes, so we couldn't move them any further back, or excuse me, closer to the road.
But I mean, during permitting, if a floodway was along that creek, then you would have that Zone 2 buffer shown on your initial plan. Was it on there?
I believe so.
Yes, it was on the initial plan.
So it's hard for me to say, surprise, it's there.
Correct. Not with the actuals. I'm not saying with the actuals, the buffer itself. Initially, I thought we had the space, and with the process of the construction, just having the decks built, it was just an oversight on not having it on the site plan. The retaining wall, to my understanding, Daryl, was that when the actual footers were poured for the two homes, is that when they uncovered that section, there's a pretty high fall from that top platform of the parking area and where the homes, like the finished floor elevations, to the creek bed, and that with the jagged rock and whatnot, when we were moving some of the topsoil, it was to my understanding that the retaining wall would be best used, obviously, for having the proper support and tier for the actual parking pad, and then for the access to the driveway. That was all on the site plan. It's just not the drive itself was, but not the retaining wall.
Back before topo was required on site plans, I could understand if you didn't have topo on the site, but just making a bunch of mistakes doesn't really constitute a hardship, and that's what I'm trying to have trouble getting at, is without a hardship, we're in a really hard position.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we typically share sentiment from the council, and I agree with Jay. I mean, this committee sees individuals who come in from out of town, maybe aren't experienced, don't know, get surprised. This does not appear to be the case. I mean, it sounds like you've been operating in our area for a while through the permitting process. This information was available. There's a Greenway Easement, so I think I don't see a hardship.
Yeah, I think a real complicating factor too is that, you got a Greenway easement there, which easily would have sent up some red flags about avoiding intruding that area. Like Ms. Stokes just said, we've made accommodations, for new builders, young builders, a homeowner building a home in a duplex, not being really experienced with the process. But this is a really different case.
And a little more than that. I mean, it just looks like there were some adjustments that could be made. Like on the house on the right, you can have a landing and steps that stay out of the buffer to get you down. I mean, it's got, or I guess the south on that, I'm looking at the site plan. You've got a 7.5 foot encroachment, but, I don't know if you've got enough. I mean, I can understand potentially a foot encroachment on that side or something just to get that 5x5 landing, but that house could have been pulled up. And I don't understand how that wasn't caught when you're staking the house or when the site plan was even done. I mean, because if you had come to us before you built these, we probably would have said narrow your house by a foot to get a 5x5 landing and stay out of it. On the other side, on the house on the left, I mean, it's significantly deeper than the house on the right. So we would have said, don't build as deep of a house. And then you're never in the buffer. And so a lot of the ones that we approve are where there's no other option.
Right.
And are more proactive than retroactive. And that's where I struggle to see any hardship or.
Yeah. If I can add, I've never personally dealt with a critical lot development before. And these are those lots. These were critical lots. I had to go to the board to appeal the initial zone, all of the steps to get these approved, to get the site plan to work with Clover. It's been the hardest process I've ever dealt with in my entire career with the critical lots and just understanding it better. In those regards, I've never built in this type of environment. They are on a very high tier above where the actual creek side is, and so the engineering behind it was a lot more over my knowledge than what I was prepared for. I'm just trying to share that my background in this, I utilize my contractors and engineers, to be honest, for majority of that knowledge, their expertise, because I do other things. I'm not just a real estate investor and developer, but I'm in town for some other musical reasons. But yes, I pulled the permits on these well over a year and a half. With all that, with the critical lots, with the back and forth with the planning commission, getting the approvals, doing everything I thought was proper. Absolutely, if I could have made the houses a little bit smaller, I would have done so. Unfortunate, they're full constructed. They're finished. The homes are done on the insides. Logan lifted the work stop order to allow me to finish the project. I've got concrete scheduled to pour the actual curbs and the proposed driveway next week to have that finished and do the brick pavers with the pervious drive exactly as to what the Stormwater Committee had requested me to do so. The only major issue that, of course, what we found was, and this goes back to the original, when we broke ground, when we poured the footers, and the engineer on site had recommended that we extend that footer off the home to carry on the retaining wall, to then help have a better structural surface up top for the for the driveway pad that we have on the site plan approved and ready to get installed. You know, I could simply I'm not sure what they call them. I want to say it's the French railings, like the New Orleans style. I could install those on the two back sliders of the deck and remove the decks. But as I mentioned at the very beginning, my fear would be that the homeowner, whoever has it, eventually they're going to want to put a deck there, and they're just going to, you know, my guess would be just have that done or whatnot. Whether they pull a permit or not, I'm not sure. That's up to the homeowner and what they decide. But the home to the north of it does have the big tree fort down below that you'd be looking at. It's clearly visible right next to the house on the left. It's probably hidden. It's right. Yeah, there you go. And again, I think the retaining wall, I do understand that if you were to see, I understand that it is in the Zone 2 flood. I know the FEMA plans had changed through the process of our development here, from when we initially pulled the first plans to where we are current day. I've noticed, because of the farm across the street too, the floodwaters never, ever, even when we've had flash flooding here over the past year, have never even reached halfway up that creek side because of the farm across the other side of the creek. Again, this goes back to our original appeal for the critical lots, when even the full Big Nashville flood, the sites did not flood at all because of the high elevation off of Buena Vista Pike there. And I would just pray for hardship and my inexperience with the critical lots, and with this going back to the very beginning. The decks were not, that was months and months ago, but with not realizing that I basically realized that we forgot that they were not on the initial site plan. But I do hope you take all that into consideration on my behalf. And this is my only project in town. It's kind of my livelihood. I've got pretty much everything that I own invested into these lots. And as I said, it's been a year and a half of me constantly pumping money into this project through COVID, through high material costs, through months delays where the planning commission, we couldn't even meet because of COVID, all of the issues above. I would ask for any type of grace within this project and allowing me to finish, as Logan had lifted the work stop, to allow me to finish this and to then just to be able to wrap my hands comfortably and be done with the project and safely into homeowners' hands.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
So we've got a variety of options. One of the real challenges of this job is treating other applicants and other developers and other homeowners in the community who've complied with these regulations to be fair to everybody that comes and everybody that has to go through the same process. I mean, clearly, all of you should have known that this was going to be a problem, and it should have been caught early. Without a clear foundational hardship, we can't approve it. And reliably defend what we do every day and how we treat people who come in here every day and who abide by it without coming in here every day. So one alternative could be that you could defer and you could go back and see what you could address that would address some of the comments that have already been made. It's going to be really challenging. The retaining wall is the biggest issue. It's a barrier to the Greenway Easement. And I don't know how we can improve it as presented today, and we're really not in the position to manage that reevaluation process. So it sounds like you've got several things that we can approve. I appreciate the difficult position that you're in. I've seen it before. We had a couple buy a lot on the Cumberland River, sight unseen, a few years ago in the Zone 1 buffer, paid several $1,000s for it, and we couldn't approve it. So these are tough decisions. We don't like them. We don't like seeing people get in these spots. But if we don't follow the procedure, it undermines the process for everybody. And people don't follow the procedure because they know they've always got an out. So that's kind of our challenge. So do you want to defer and come back with something more creative, or would you like us to make a decision now? Okay. All right. So we have a request by the applicant to defer. I'm assuming we need a motion to confirm that.
Yes.
All right, so I'll go ahead and make the motion that we're going to defer this for 30 days. Staff will review the applicant's proposals to address the comments that have been stated here today. I can't guarantee that we'll be able to approve what you bring back, but we do want to give you the chance to try to figure out a more creative way around it. Okay. All right. All right, we have a motion on the table.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Defer passes. All right.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. Our next applicant is St. Thomas Sports Park on 460 Great Circle Road. So if you'll come on up to the table. Did you hear your rights of appeal read earlier? Okay. All right.
Chairman, I need to recuse myself.
All right. Ms. Stokes, our vice chair, is going to need to recuse herself. We still have a quorum. So at this time, we are going to go through the same process that you observed, and then we'll debate it. All right. All right. Mr. Bowman.
Case Case number 2 on the agenda is case 2022-00014, St. Thomas Sports Park at 460 Great Circle Road. APN is 07011000400. Inspector is Denise Johns. Council District 2, Keonsa Toombs. Applicant's request, disturbance of the Zone 2 pond buffer of Amulet Lake to build a concrete/paver walkway. Appellant is Tennessee Football LP, represented by Drew Hardison, Barge Design Solutions. Comments. Stormwater staff. Site mitigation plan provides additional trees along Amulet Lake, as well as provides buffer education to those numerous persons using this path. Staff would request signage be placed in the best locations for visual exposure and within most vegetated areas. Staff also requests that the applicant increases the tree species diversity so that no species comprises more than 20% of the total. Codes had no comment provided. Planning, defer to Stormwater Management Committee. Greenways, no comment provided.
All right. Am I that eager to get started each time? Okay, so we're going to give you 10 minutes to make your variance proposal case, and then we'll open up the public hearing.
Well, good morning. My name is Drew Hardison. I'm with Barge Design Solution. I appreciate everybody's time to hear this case. For those that don't know, the site is located at the Titans practice facility in the Metro Center area at the address of 460 Great Circle Road. You can see the vicinity maps on the screen here. So the purpose of this encroachment is to put a concrete walkway from the right-of-way back to the practice facilities, to the Titans practice facilities. And the purpose of that would be for media personnel as well as fans, that they could bypass the gated facility and go around the facility for safety reasons, as well as just keeping things separate. So the encroachment is only into the Zone 2 buffer. It is not into the Zone 1 buffer. Just for everyone's knowledge, there's a 25-foot pond buffer along Amulet Lake. Zone 1 is 10 feet, no disturbance. Zone 2 is 15 feet. So we would be, the ask would be to place impervious surface within the Zone 2 buffer. So the impact to the Zone 2 buffer is 602 square feet, and the reasons for the impact are due to an existing bioretention pond that is located to the just north on the screen, and then as well as some HVAC equipment and gated facility just to the south. Those are the two areas. The majority of the sidewalk remains outside of the buffer. So in here, I'm zooming in, showing the existing bioretention pond that we are meandering around, as well as the HVAC equipment. We took every opportunity to explore our options to see, can we avoid the buffer through the various paths? And, maybe we look at the east side of the site instead of this, but the same challenges just presented themselves, and this was what we feel is the best solution and the minimal impact to the buffer. And so for mitigation, what we would be proposing would be to add over double the amount of pervious pavement that we are impacting within the Zone 2 buffer. So we're impacting 602 square feet. We would be proposing to do 1,250 square feet of pervious pavement. In addition to that, we would add tree plantings within the Zone 2 buffer. As Logan had mentioned, the species would be in accordance with that. I think there's a total of 24 trees. With that, thank you.
Great job. Thank you. All right. So at this time, we'll open up the public hearing. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak in favor or against the current proposal? Appreciate the smiles out there. That always helps when we're in a long regulatory meeting. All right. Anybody else? Okay. All right, seeing none, do we have any voicemails, emails, planes flying by with banners?
None on this case.
All right, we don't have any kind of other public comment. All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. All right, I'll just say, since I've been on the board, we've dealt with several projects out at Metro Center, and since we're dealing with man-made water systems, we've been a little more eager to grant mitigation of this type. And the tree planting, the permeable paving is laudable, and I don't see anything that you're proposing that's out of line with things we've approved in the past in Metro Center. So that's just my perspective. I'm just one vote. So.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I mean, if you just look around Metro Center, it's a bunch of man-made water bodies. The buildings are very close. I think it predates a lot of the buffer requirements that exist today. What's a lot different than a lot of buffer encroachments on this one is community benefit. I mean, that goes a long way. So, as far as trying to reshape existing ponds, it doesn't look like there's room. There's a lot of constraints. I do want to say that on previous applications of encroachment, I've voiced that I don't think the value's there versus unintended consequences for it to be pavers in the buffer area, just because maintenance, the machinery you got to get back there, it's goodwill, but I worry about in 5-10 years. It's people walking on 5 feet of sidewalk. It's not cars. It's not. I don't think that that's detrimental. I think that additional plantings and the root systems that'll grow from those far outweigh the benefit of the paver sidewalk. But that's just my perspective on it.
Are they solid pavers or are they porous concrete?
That's to be determined.
Okay.
But yeah, it would be either pervious pavers, solid pavers with open joints, or pervious concrete, one of the two.
I would tend to agree with the last comment that porous concrete is really not worth it. Precast pavers are very reliable, very stay porous, and almost never clog in my experience. So if you could stick with that, I think that would help a lot. So,
okay.
Yeah. All right.
So just a quick question. So we take everything into consideration. You mentioned that there were similar problems on the other side of the site that were considered. Can you speak to that a bit of why this side of the practice field was chosen?
Sure. Yeah, just the buffer encroached closer to that. So where we would be putting that walkway, there would be more impact to the buffer. So our thought was, there's 602 square feet on the west side, so the lesser of the two would be better.
Okay, so to move things along, I'm going to move to accept the variance as presented with the condition that they use precast pavers with porous corners, and that's my motion.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye. All opposed? Abstentions?
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that great effort. Okay, we're going to invite our vice chair to come back. And I want to ask the Oracle folks to come up. We're going to have the next three cases. Let me see if I can add a little extra clarity to the experience we're about to go through and enjoy. Because since we're all kind of geeky regulator types, we enjoy this kind of stuff. Okay, so we're going to hear a variance proposal and two preliminaries, because we know preliminaries are designed to be kind of an attempt by the applicant to get some early input on the direction that they want to go so that they don't invest time and money inappropriately. Of course, it doesn't always guarantee that the variance will be approved, but it does help ensure that some of the early expectations get addressed and that their investment-backed expectations are protected with a little more confidence as they proceed. The other thing that we're going to allow them to do, they've requested to make some introductory comments to help us understand the whole package of projects. We've asked them to very clearly identify the variance zones within the package so that we're not kind of distracted by the bright, shiny trees and buildings and other things that are not, if they're not in the variance boundaries, that's nice to know, but we're really here to focus on the variance proposal. So they're going to give us some context with relevance to the variances, and hopefully that'll be brief, and then they'll go into the first case, and then we'll hear the following two preliminary cases. That makes sense to everybody? That sound fair?
Can we pause for a minute? We seem to be having technical difficulties. Is anybody's personal screen, showing the presentation?
Mine hasn't been, so, but.
Ours is working.
It was on before.
Yeah, so this one's on, but not. Says no signal. Should we take a break?
Yeah, why don't we take 5 minutes and see what the tech folks can do. So if you want to take a restroom break, feel free to do that. And we'll see you at least by 9:11. Where were we? We were, you were about to read the introduction. All right.